What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and round 18 is done, and that makes it time for Nuff of the Week. And I was kind of struggling for ideas until one fell straight in my lap today. We have, I guess, trodden this ground a little bit before with similar indiscretions, but it's, I guess, a timely opportunity to remind people that being a homophobe is just not okay. So Jack Graham is our Nuff of the Week this week. Former Tiger, now West Coast Eagle, has essentially mouthed off during the game last weekend against GWS. So it's taken a whole week for all of this to come out. And I guess there's some conversations and questions and maybe speculation that can kind of go into how and why this took so long to get to this particular point. But setting that aside, the behavior is not okay. He has made a quote-unquote highly offensive homophobic slur directed at a GWS player. This player has been unnamed so far, and hopefully that remains the case. And, you know, Jack serves his sentence and we just can kind of move on. But we don't know who that player is. All we know is that he's made an inappropriate comment, and as of now, he is suspended for 4 matches. We're going to talk about what he's done, why it's not okay, what the problems with all of this are, right after a word from our sponsor.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew and all we get up to. Now, let's break down what has occurred here. Like I said, there has been a quote-unquote highly offensive homophobic slur made by Jack Graham, directed at a GWS player last weekend, and it's taken a little while for it to bubble up and the consequence to be issued. We are reading from SEN here, so thank you for them for compiling the piece here with all the key information. The 27-year-old recruit directed a slur towards a player during the Eagles' clash with GWS in round 17, with the AFL handing down a lengthy ban to the midfielder on Sunday morning. And this is what the AFL has issued. The AFL wishes to advise the West Coast Eagle player Jack Graham has been found guilty of breaching AFL Rule 2.3a conduct unbecoming in relation to an incident during the second quarter of the round 17 match between the West Coast Eagles and the GWS Giants. Now, I'm sure with that little bit of information there about the second quarter, I'm sure people are going to start hunting through the footage now and trying to work out exactly who that player is. But honestly, it really doesn't matter who the individual is. He could have been saying that to anyone and it wouldn't have been okay no matter what. The incident was self-reported by Graham to the West Coast Eagles. The club reported it to the AFL on Friday morning, with the AFL Integrity Unit undertaking an immediate investigation. Now, my query here, and this is getting off the Nuff of the Week part of it. This maybe is, I don't know who necessarily this reflects worse upon. Jack Graham may well have reported it to the Eagles. So the club report on Friday, maybe Jack Graham took 4 or 5 days sitting on it before he's gone, oh, yeah, I should probably say something. I'm looking like a bit of a dickhead here. Or my guilty conscience has finally gotten the better of me here. And in that case, then, you know, it doesn't reflect overly well on him. It could also be a case of he self-reported, you know, the very next day, somewhere in between game day and Friday, and it took a while for the Eagles to pass through everything. I don't understand why it took so long for it to get reported by the Eagles to the AFL on the Friday, and then, or from Jack Graham to the Eagles and to the AFL, and then why it took till Sunday game day for Jack Graham to then be a late withdrawal because he was serving a suspension. It's very, very strange as far as I'm concerned, and I think, you know, you can put your conspiracy hats on if you want, get your tinfoil hats out, everyone, and start kind of speculating a little bit as to how and why we got here, maybe what the Eagles were hoping to achieve, maybe squeeze one extra game out of it before he got suspended. I don't know. The rationale is very, very confusing, but we'll continue on here. Graham used a highly offensive homophobic slur against a GWS Giants opponent. By the way, I'm getting sick of seeing the Giants in all capitals, which demeans and denigrates persons regardless of their sexuality. Graham has received a 4-match suspension, with the AFL taking into account Graham's self-reporting of the incident, along with his private apology and contrition. Graham also rang the AFL CEO directly to apologise. So yeah, he did get on the line to Andrew Dillon and spoke about the whole incident with him as well. I honestly, again, when there's days and days removed between the actual incident and then it all kind of coming out in the wash, I don't think apologising cuts it. I mean, like it's obviously it's important when it comes to, I guess, getting some closure for the player who was on the receiving end of the comment, but also for Jack, who made the comment in the first place. I understand it's important in that respect, but it really should have no bearing at all on the penalty. It's like saying, I walked out of this house. I don't have a gun, but I walked out of this house and I shot someone and I said, oh, but I apologized. So it can't be that. Like, don't charge me with whatever the top thing murder is. No, I'm sorry. This is my lack of knowledge of the legal system coming in. But like don't charge me with murder. That's manslaughter. I apologized. Like it doesn't cut it as far as I'm concerned. Whatever the consequences are, and there's been 3 other incidents of this that have resulted in suspensions in the past, it should be equal to all of those. I can't remember what they are. They've ranged between 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know what the differences were there. I just don't think an apology cuts it. You've done the wrong thing. Maybe it was a genuine mistake. Maybe it doesn't at all reflect. And there's going to be a comment from him that we'll go through shortly. But maybe it doesn't reflect him and how he and the club believe. But you said it nonetheless, and it should just be black and white. A bit like the suspension rubric that we deal with for football acts or sometimes non-footballing acts. It should just be treated the same. You do this, it equals that. No grey area. But this system loves itself a bit of grey area. He'll not be eligible to play for the West Coast Eagles or any level of football for the next 4 weeks. That does include the Port Adelaide game that occurred, as of when you see this, yesterday. As a part of the sanction, Graham will also undertake Pride in Sport education. Everyone understands the word he used is both hurtful and totally unacceptable in any setting ever, AFL Head of Integrity and Security Tony Keane said. The AFL is very clear that homophobia has no place in our game nor in the community. We have come a long way as a code, but this incident demonstrates that there is so much more to be done and will continue to work together to improve our game as a safe and inclusive environment for all. And then we kind of scroll on. We can kind of see the breaking news here from the AFL social platforms. And this is the comment from the West Coast Eagles. The West Coast Eagles also released a statement on Sunday morning. The West Coast Eagles confirm AFL player Jack Graham has admitted to using a homophobic slur during the round 17 match against Greater Western Sydney. The AFL Integrity Unit has completed an investigation into the incident with Graham's full cooperation and admission and imposed a 4-match sanction. As a part of the sanction, Graham will undertake Pride in Sport education. We kind of heard that. And here's what Jack Graham has had to say. I'm very remorseful for the word I used and know such language has no place in our community or our game. I have offered my unreserved apology to the Giants player and the Greater Western Sydney and would also like to publicly apologise for my comment. What I said does not reflect my values or our club values. Again, I'll believe you. Like that's totally fine. Like, I understand that people make mistakes. It happens. You don't love it. And we're talking about whether it's racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever. Sometimes genuinely good people make mistakes because there's kind of cultural things that, and things that you've been brought up with for the longest time that maybe mean that you say things or believe things, or just been exposed to things over the years and you've been kind of desensitized to them, and maybe they've been considered acceptable even when they're not, in the way that kids would forever describe something as being a certain homophobic word, that it was just to represent that something was bad. Like, these sorts of things need to be broken down, and it takes time, and it takes sometimes generations. It takes moments like this for it to occur. So I understand that maybe this is, not at all what you believe, and this totally is an accident. But you've made the comments nonetheless, and I just don't know why we're talking about the lower end, or why an apology kind of comes into the mix. Why it happens, it's important, but it shouldn't be a factor at all in the consequence. I made a mistake and need to be better, and will prove that through my actions going forward. CEO Don Pike was highly disappointed in Graham's comment, but would provide support and education during his time out of the game. And then there's kind of mirroring a lot of the stuff that we've discussed, and of course that he would then be withdrawn from the team to play Port Adelaide on Sunday. And that's about where we're at when it comes to this particular subject. Jack Graham, the reason why you're being nuffed this week is not because of some little conspiracy ideas that I've got in the background as to why it's from potentially 6 down to 4 or whatever. It's you've seen players get done for this in the past. Learn. And this is, I guess, for any player, and I'm sure there's been plenty of incidents that have not been reported since. For any player in this AFL game who by some chance happens to be watching this, I, for a split second here, don't care whether you're homophobic or not. You know what is considered acceptable in this game and in society. So just don't make the stupid ass comment. If you're a homophobe, get out of here. I don't want, don't associate with, people. You're shit. But setting that aside, use some common sense here. I know white line fever's a thing. I know people can get in the moment and make mistakes. Just wisen up. It's not hard. So Jack Graham, you're the Nuff of the Week this week. That's where we'll wrap things up for this episode, this video though. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please drop a like on the video, share the video with your friends and family, get the word out there about the Hoops Crew, all the content we're creating, and the conversations that we want to have with you. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/the Hoops Crew, kicking a few bucks. $5 a month gets you early access, exclusives, and extended content. There's also a 7-day free trial period to see if it's for you beforehand. We've got lots of awesome stuff there for people to check out, so please consider doing so. Close to 40 of you are already doing that, so thank you all very, very much. In terms of socials, you'll find me at Paul James Games. The Hoops Crew is at The Hoops Crew. That's on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram. And until next time, thanks a lot for watching. Jack Graham, you're a bit of a nuff. Do better. It's not that hard. Thanks a lot for watching. Remain Geelong strong, everyone, and I'll see you later.